Hello YouTube, how goes it with thou? Very, very well this end. Oh yes, lovely Sunday. Beautiful couple of days it's been here in the Midlands. A beautiful few days. We've had this unseasonal heat wave here in the Midlands, and it's just been beautifully bright and sunny and lovely. It's very much an early spring, it seems here. I doubt it will last very long. I'm assuming we're going to be back to the grey tomorrow. Oh yes, that is the typical Midlands weather, I'm afraid. Very grey, very oppressive, very dank and overcast. I like both. I don't mind. I like both sets of weather. What am I rambling on about the weather for? That's being very English about everything, isn't it? Let's talk about the weather. Yay! Oh, what have I been doing? Oh, I've been very busy. I've been buying shit, for one thing. I bought, the other day, I've been after these for feckin' years, so I have. Oh god, I bought this the other day. This is one of the first books ever produced by Games Workshop, one of the first army books. There are two of these. There's The Realms of Chaos, Slaves to Darkness, which I've also bought, which I'm going to be taking delivery of on Tuesday, by all accounts. I better be fucking Tuesday. Otherwise, I may actually beat up and eat my postman. Yes, anyway, this is the second volume, which deals... The first volume deals with the two Chaos Gods, Khorne and Slaanesh. This one deals with Tzeentch and Nurgle. And, you know, it is an absolutely stunning bit of work. I got it for quite cheap because it's a little bit damaged, but, you know, I don't mind that. Old books, I like to be a little bit worn. I like them to be damaged and to be dusty and cobweb strewn. They have that very peculiar smell of old parchment. And dust. I really like that, and this has it in spades. It's just a huge hit of nostalgia. This whole thing, the whole book, shrieks of the late 80s and early 90s when Games Workshop and Warhammer and all that shit were in their infancy, or their adolescence, I suppose. And everything in this book it has this kind of naive enthusiasm about it, whereas later tomes have been a little bit weary, a little bit strained with their attempts to make the material feel new, or to emphasise new aspects of it to appeal to both older gamers and new ones. This doesn't attempt that at all. It's just very sort of very basic. It just gives you the background material, and it's wonderful. It's a really good fun read, even though the game system that this refers to is fucking atrocious. I mean, it's insane. I don't know how you could possibly organise a game around this. There are tables in here that are die 100. It's utterly mental. It must have taken ages to organise a game under this system. So yeah, I've been buying shit. I've also been making shit. I've gotten properly back into the old Warhammer 40,000 stuff of late. Ever since I bought the Dark Elder Codex, it's very lovely. And I'm working on a homunculus army. Let me show you. Where are we? He, she, it is. This, I don't know whether you can see it on this camera, maybe not. This is my homunculus at the moment. It's heavily converted. I'm not quite sure what sex it is, actually. I mean, looking at it, it's sort of androgynous. It could be male, it could be female. Lots and lots of conversion work on this. I've been taking my scalpels to this. Yes, very nice. But yeah, I'm working on a homunculus army at the moment. Doesn't consist of very much. That's my first homunculus. I've got a couple of scourges as well, which are also heavily converted. I mean, this one has the body of a demonette and the arm of a Dark Elder Witch and the wings and head of a scourge. Yeah, I like to convert my miniatures. I get very, not competitive as such, but kind of, but somewhat ambitious with my my miniatures when I make them. I really like them to be completely unique and to be interesting and dynamic and to sort of tell a story, to have a bit of character to them. That's the whole reason I do the whole Warhammer 40k thing. I like the background and I like the role-playing aspect of it. Lots of fun. But yes, what I did intend to do as per title is a toy review. Not doing Transformers at the moment, maybe a little bit later, when the sort of enthusiasm is rekindled. It hasn't been yet. I'm sticking with the He-Man stuff at the minute, toy-wise. I'm really liking all of this magic and monsters thing. And I thought I'd do one of my favourite villains from He-Man, which is one of the most obscure ones, actually. And I've got two toys of this guy. Two toys from two different lines, both of which emphasise different aspects of the character. Now, the first one I got was this thing. This is King Hiss. Fantastic name. Just like all of the He-Man characters, the name is fucking atrocious. They could have called him anything. They could have called him, I don't know, Ophidian or King Ophidian or something like that. Whatever. Anything but fucking King Hiss. You just could call him Scaly or something like that. But no, King Hiss it is. I love the shit names in He-Man. Now this is a rendition. This guy did appear in the original He-Man line apparently, but was never in the cartoon. He was set up as a kind of counterpart to Skeletor. This guy is, in terms of sorcerous power and whatnot, at least as powerful as Skeletor. And in the 2000X cartoon, he was a lot more powerful than Skeletor. He's in the 2000X cartoon, King Hiss is the lord of a race of ancient creatures called the Snake Men, who are basically what it says on the tin. They are all sort of fusions between men and serpents, and each of them has very particular capabilities. Like some of them can spit acid, some of them can extend their necks and sort of constrict around people, and all of this weirdness. King Hiss was their lord and master, and apparently was involved in various ancient Eternian wars with Hordak and various other powers, but was eventually defeated and banished to a place called the Abyss along with his people, and has spent several millennia trying to claw his way back out so he can take over all of Eternia again. Yay! What I really like about the portrayal of this guy in the 2000X cartoon is that although he was a big bad super baddie, in fact he was a big bad super baddie that was even more big and super bad than Skeletor, he emphasised kind of a different aspect of evil, if you like, borrowing from an old Transformers UK comic tradition there. Whereas Skeletor was a dick who ruled through fear and bullying psychology, this guy commanded unbelievable devotion, like fanatically religious devotion from his followers. He wasn't just a king, he had this feeling of being like a pharaoh or like a religious leader of some sort, a high priest as it were. And that was kind of emphasised towards the end of the series, where you find out that he is the high priest of some ancient elder god called Cerbos, who basically is Snake Mountain, where Skeletor has set up his digs. Snake Mountain is the fossilised form of Serpos, whom King Hiss wakes up and sends on a bit of a killing spree. And yes, that's where he derives all of his powers from, by all accounts. He is unbelievably powerful as a sorcerer. He even takes down the sorceress at one point with his magic. He's pretty damn cool. Also, one of the things they did in the 2000X cartoon is they kind of tried to emphasise that there were different schools of magic, there were different disciplines of magic. So Skeletor's is very different from Hordak's, and Hordak's is very different from King Hiss. Oh, that's one of the faults of this guy, by the way. He has a beautiful weapon. This staff is really beautifully designed with that snake curled all around it, but he has issues holding it. In fact, most of the issues of the toy derive from the arms, and I'll show you for why later. If I can get his fucking staff back in. That is. What was I saying? Oh yeah, they all... Fuck that. I'm not putting that back in there because that's very annoying. I've got to take it off later anyway. I've lost my train of thought now. That's arse. That's it. Oh yes, magic. Yes, magic. Schools of magic. Various different kinds of magic. Where you had Hordak, who was like almost like a source of magic. His magic is ultimately destructive and apocalyptic and incredibly powerful. It doesn't rely on chance or on invocations or anything like that. He just looks and things happen. This guy could manifest like spectral snakes that could manipulate the environment and all. That's pretty cool. Now the figure itself is really different from how he appeared in the original He-Man line. In the original He-Man line, he was much more standard. He was much more just green all over, and he didn't have any of this wonderful Egyptian detailing. What they seem to have gone for is almost like they've gone with the serpent symbolism as like almost like a priest of Set, the ancient Egyptian god. And that is really lovely. I love the aesthetics of this guy, but the toy has some crippling issues because of its gimmick. Think about King Hiss. This isn't his real form. This is sort of like a disguise that he uses to travel, and it's not a very good disguise, really, because he doesn't look all that human, really, does he? It's not a terribly good disguise, but apparently it's less suspicious than his true form. Now, the way they manifest that in this toy is almost like a pretender from Transformers. This whole section is solid. It's just a solid shell. And when you take this off, which is holding it together, and press this button on his back, the whole thing flips up and his true form is inside. The problem with that is it really limits the toy. First of all, the gimmick doesn't work. It's a really piss poor gimmick. You press the button and this just sort of flops a little bit and nothing happens. Second of all, this is supposed to flip up, but it doesn't go anywhere. It just sits on the shoulders. You may as well just take the damn thing off. Third of all, it means that his arms can't move. His arms are completely rigid, apart from the wrists, which can twist a bit, but that is a little bit useless. It's a shame it doesn't really work, because I love the look of this figure. The character is great. I love King Hiss. He's one of a really good classic fantasy bad guy. Anyway, I'll show you the gimmick. He's got that lovely shield there with this serpent symbolism on it. Just take that off. Press the button, and you see, it doesn't work. This is supposed to go all the way up there, and inside you have these snake heads that pop up, and his arms also become snakes as well. And you've got some really nice detailing in there. You've got like these coiled snakes, these little snakes that come out of the shoulders. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. In this form, he was pretty gruesome in the cartoon. Actually, he did actually kill people. He's a rare example of a cartoon villain, Saturday morning style cartoon villain, who actually kills people, and he does it by eating them. He seems to be always hungry. He eats a hell of a lot in the cartoon, and he prefers living food. So there you go. It's fine. I mean, it's okay. It looks I think it looks very good, but this is fucking ugly. That is fucking ugly. That is just unforgivable. You can just take it off, in which instance it looks a lot better. But in that instance, why didn't they just make it so you could take the damn torso off anyway, instead of having this ridiculous gimmick where it flips up? And also, which hideously limits the posability of the figure. It's an example of what I really hate in toys, which is something which is focused on the gimmick, which then undermines the integrity of the overall figure. It's very annoying. Very, very annoying. But I do like this figure a hell of a lot, because I like the character. And it's very well designed, very nicely detailed. The aesthetics are great. It's just the fucking gimmick that's annoying. Now, I do have the classics version of this guy as well. And, well, first of all, the classics version is a hell of a lot bigger, which is lovely. The classics version is much closer to the original 1980s figure. This is pretty much what it looked like in the 1980s, with all the green and whatnot, and without the Egyptian stylings. I would have much preferred if they'd have taken some of the new stuff, the pharaoh-like stuff from the 2000X figure, like the headdress and everything. But I don't mind that too much, because this figure is so damn good. the integrity of this figure is great. Everything moves. Wrists, elbows, everything moves. He's unbelievably posable, like all the classics figures, and the plastic is lovely. It's really dense, rubbery plastic, and he has this lovely sort of scaled design on all of his armour, which is physical ridges. I mean, they're actually carved into the figure, moulded onto the figure, which is lovely. He also has this very, very beautiful staff, which again is much more redolent of the original King Hiss, and this shield, which has some very, very nice dry brushed details, I believe, on there. There's a little bit of dry brushed silver on there, which is very, very, very lovely. I love this figure. I love it much more than the 2000X one. It's much more fun to play with because it doesn't fucking come apart, and you can actually move its damn arms and everything and have it in all sorts of interesting poses. I love it. This face sculpt is great. It's much more human, apart from the eyes, which are distressingly snake-like. And he has this kind of knowing smirk on his face, as if it's like, yeah, I know what's going on, but you don't. And by the time you realise, it's going to be far too late. That's kind of cool. He looks like, unlike King Hiss from the 2000X cartoon, I think this guy would be characterised very, very differently. He looks like he would be quite charming and smug, and he would sort of be very subtle about the way he unveils himself into Eternian society. I can imagine him operating actually within Eternian culture. And sort of fomenting the cult of the snake underground, as it were, which I think is very, very cool. I would have loved to have seen that, actually, within the 2000X cartoon, rather than King Hiss just coming out and being an utter baddie from the get-go. It would have been great if he was a little bit more subtle. But oh well. This is an absolutely lovely toy, and one of my favourites of the classics line thus far. I'm getting a lot of them at the minute. I really, really do enjoy this line, get a lot of pleasure out of it. Now, this thing also has the gimmick, I suppose, in a very peculiar way. Rather than compromising the whole figure to have the pretend thing, all you do, they've just made it much more mechanical, I suppose, much more technical. You just take the torso off. There's the human torso. There's the snake torso. Just plug it in, and voila. That's more or less how King Hiss looked back in the original line. But the difference is that there is a lot more detailing on this. There are scales, there's paint applications. These things are like wire cleaners. You can position them as and how you wish. His jaw will move. It's really creepy and weird looking, and it looks a lot more threatening than the 2000X version. It's much more impressive. I love this version of the character. For me, this is the definitive version thus far. I would really like it if they did an adaptation of this that had the some of the more pharaoh-like Egyptian stylings of the 2000X line, but all of the integrity of the classics line. That would be absolutely wonderful. But thus far, very, very pleased with this character. This is my favourite villain, by the way, from He-Man. I like him because he's obscure, and because he represents something that's a little bit different, as opposed to Skeletor's unbelievable arrogance and complete contempt for everything and everyone. This guy is somewhat subtle, and seems to work through subterfuge more than brute force. I like that. He also, the transformation thing's very cool. I like anything that shifts states, hence my appreciation for the Transformers. There's something about things that transform, that metamorphose, that does it for me. It represents that sort of that fascination with the liminal werewolves and vampires and so on and so forth. I really, really like that. So there we are. There is King Hiss 2000X, King Hiss Classics line in their snake forms. I will also get them back into their more human guises so you can compare and contrast them. This, it's such a shame about this 2000X figure. He was a brilliant presence in the cartoon, and if you haven't seen the cartoon, go and check it out. It's got this It's not like as big or clever as, say, Beast Machines or anything like that. It doesn't even attempt to be. It's got much more of a classic Saturday morning cartoon vibe to it. But it runs with it. It runs with that and does a damn good job of it. It's a really good, fun cartoon. There we are. Now, I just need the damn shield to clip on. There we are. And I will try once again to get the damn staff into his hand. You're going to stay, you bastard, you better. There we are, yes. So there they are in their more human guises. I do love the style of this one, I really do, but this one wins out overall. It really, really does. When you get them in hand, this one. This one is the one you want. So yeah, that was King Hiss from the He-Man 2000X and Classics line. Don't know what I'm going to be doing next. I think I'll probably do Hordak. Since I'm doing the evil characters, I'll do Hordak next because he is fucking cool in the He-Man 2000X cartoon. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll be back reasonably soon.